we now have the pleasure of being joined by Jacob Lane, who covers Louisville men's basketball. Jacob, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. It's going well. A little bit of Syracuse weather down here in Louisville. Get a little bit of ice and snow happening right now. So it seems like you guys are already kind of influencing things when we get started here. So, trying to be like you all.
Storms all over the place. I mean,
right,
it's not just Louisville. I'd imagine many ACC schools are getting it this weekend as far as the weather is concerned. Jacob, let's hop right in here. You look at sort of the Cardinals year as a whole, and fair to say it's been a little bit of tumultuous. Can you give us sort of, what's been the overview? What's been the big picture of kind of some of the overarching themes for Louisville this year?
Yeah, I'll tell you, it's got to go back a little bit to give you some context to it. You go back to last year, Louisville being one of the replacement teams on the NCAA tournament list. Once that was revealed, the bracket came out, Louisville obviously ended up not going to the NCAA tournament. Which around here is unacceptable. Like there is no situation in which missing the tournament is ever okay here. So Chris Mack was very quick to get to a microphone and tell people that it was going to be better. They understood they underperformed, that they were going to get back in the lab and make things happen. They turned their roster over, brought in 8 new players, fired 2 prominent assistant coaches, one of which Dino Gaudio obviously caused quite the uproar with the federal blackmail case, the extortion case there. And then brought in 2 guys who had no real college basketball coaching experience, and Kenil Fennell, who was on staff as the director of basketball ops, but had not been an on-bench assistant. And then Ross McMains, who's been an assistant coach for the New Zealand national team overseas, very much out of the box hire. And then you have the Chris Mack suspension early at the season for the issues stemming from that recording of Dino Gaudio, and just the things that went into that, the level 2 violations that were put on top of Louisville, of course, with the long list of punishments already. And so Chris Mack starts the game behind the 8 ball, suspended. He's got 8 new players, a brand new scheme, a brand new system that's foreign to him, really putting his trust into his assistant coaches. And Louisville got out. It played really well to start, 5-1. Mike Pegues won the Bahama Hoops Classic. I forget what the name of the actual tournament was. They knocked off Maryland and Mississippi State, which at the time looked like big wins. I know neither one of those teams have been very good. They did have an early loss to Furman, which looked bad, but Furman's one of those teams that you guys have seen this over the years with Syracuse. You lose to a team that's like a fringe mid-major tournament team who gets hot, whatever the case is, you rebound. It's typically not that big of a deal. But then Chris Mack came back and everything kind of quickly fell apart, and the team didn't gel. There were real issues with the offense, the defense. They were never consistent enough. And then you started having issues with players and attitude, behavior. And then you could quickly kind of see with Chris Mack, things were really kind of falling apart. He was already a little bit on the hot seat for missing the tournament and just some of the struggles he's had. Again, I go back to the Dino Gaudio case because that thing is kind of a big deal, the suspension, a lot of issues behind the scenes. And it just led to this boiling point after the Pittsburgh game where Chris Mack initiated some sort of conversation regarding his buyout, which was a $12 million buyout, ended up settling around the $4 million mark and walked away from the team. And since then, it's, kind of been like this weight has been lifted off their shoulders. If you watch Louisville's games, it was very obvious Chris Mack was not there mentally, coaching from the sidelines, though he was there physically. He was often kind of checked out, really didn't get involved with the team. But since then, Mike Pegues, who is a longtime Chris Mack assistant, 9 years under Mack at Xavier, now at Louisville, has taken over, and Louisville's put 2 really inspiring efforts together against Duke and North Carolina. But with Duke, just ran into a much more tough team, and Mark Williams at 7 feet. I swear I've never seen somebody who can tip offensive rebounds like him. And then on Tuesday night with North Carolina, the officials, I'm not one that often points to officiating blowing games, but they absolutely took that game straight out of Louisville's hands with some really egregious missed calls on Armando Bacot, a technical foul late on Jalen Withers, just downright putrid officiating. And here we are with Louisville sitting at 11-11. It's the worst team I've ever seen in my lifetime as a Louisville basketball fan. They've had teams that missed the tournament. They had the team in 2018 with David Padgett that was a fringe tournament team, NIT team. And then there's a couple of teams with Pitino and Crum in the early 2000s that were just okay. But man, this is bad. This is really bad. And so now it's just all about kind of getting to the end of the season, making sure the damage control is not bad, and you can bring a couple of guys back next year and hope that they make the right hire on the coaching carousel.
And we up here in in Syracuse thought things were bad. When you point things out from that perspective down in Louisville, it's pretty crazy everything that's gone on. But the thing that stuck out most to me about what's gone on down in Louisville was Malik Williams' comments after, I don't remember after which game it was, but they asked him about Chris Mack and if he had lost the locker room, and I believe his response was no comment. And
right.
It seemed like that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So once he lost the locker room, it seemed like Chris Mack was all but done at that point.
Right. And I don't want Malik at the time. It seemed like Malik Williams was kind of indicating a larger issue, which there obviously has been with the team kind of losing trust in Mack. But since then, Malik Williams has been suspended from the team. He didn't play against North Carolina on Tuesday night. I do not expect him to play on Saturday against Duke or against Syracuse. But, his comments kind of opened the door to some of the kind of some of the behavior behind the scenes and just some of the things that you could see on the floor, but never really put your finger on. But I don't know how much of it wasn't being, kind of the root cause of Malik Williams. I mean, the guy's a 5th-year senior. His professional career is kind of up in the air. He's been battling injuries throughout his career, and he's really not played well. Sidney Curry has outplayed him significantly down the stretch of the season. And so you just wonder, some of the things he alluded at, maybe, he was some of the leadership in that. And I don't want to, point fingers at a college kid because this is crazy, unprecedented times, but they obviously suspended him for a reason. And, you kind of hope that you pull Mack out of the situation, maybe Malik Williams, and then things can kind of, get down the stretch. And maybe Louisville does what Syracuse does every once in a while. They finish a season like 19-14 and go to the Final Four. Who needs a great record to go to the Final Four, right? Syracuse has proven that several times.
It's two programs that, it's no secret, Jacob, definitely sort of expect better. And normally at this point in early February, you're not really having the kinds of conversations that we're having about the Orange and the Cardinals. I'm curious, do you see sort of any similarities that can kind of be drawn between the two sort of state of the programs right now, I guess, if you will?
Not really. See, I think with Jim Boeheim, you see a guy who's on the tail end of his career, just like you saw with Denny Crum, just kind of losing the ability to recruit at the level he once did. Now, don't get me wrong, Jim Boeheim still develops talents. Jesse Edwards didn't even look like a Division I player a few years ago, and here he is, one of the best shot blockers in the ACC. Obviously, Buddy Boeheim, Joe Girard are dynamic players, but those guys aren't what Syracuse has had in the past. In terms of like the overall talent, Louisville's issue has been more the inability to get the right system in place, the ability to get the right voice, and then a lot of stuff behind the scenes with the administration. I don't know how much you guys know about the president's office, but we've been through now 3 presidents in the last, 3 years. There was some real tension with the athletic director that ultimately led to him resigning. So it's just been a mess. And so where Syracuse kind of has more of a just kind of an issue overall, which is kind of the quality, I'd say, of basketball from what I can see from my perspective, not being that team they were a few years ago with the star power that they had. Whereas Louisville's issue is they just can't get the footing they need to really get back to where they were. They take one step forward and it's 5 steps backwards. They're really an inability to get out of their own way.
So speaking of moving backwards on the court this season, you mentioned the Cardinals record at 11-11, similar to Syracuse, but Syracuse is now on a 2-game winning streak. Louisville is on a 4-game losing streak and has lost 7 of 8 overall, going all the way back to January 8th. So what on the court has been the biggest issue for the Cardinals so far this season?
Yeah, it's really been a couple of things. One of it is just a lack of consistency. I mean, you'll have games where, Sidney Curry shows up and he gives you 15 and 13, or Malik gives you 20 and 10. You get, 30-40% shooting from the field, and they come back out the next night and they can't guard a parked car. They're not closing out on their 3-pointers. There's nobody that's really interested in scoring around the basket. They just look disjointed, a lot of standing around, and really a lot of bad body language and just really lack of chemistry on this team. I think that if you had to boil it down to one issue, I just think that the pieces don't fit, quite honestly. I think they've got 12, 13 really good players, but I just don't think that they fit together in the scheme that they have been playing in. And it's been obviously what's been going on behind the scenes. They've just kind of continue to force it, go with what they know, which is Malik Williams. And then it kind of goes haywire as soon as they get challenged or they get down. So I really think that Louisville's got a chance to put it all together down the stretch, but it's just a matter of if they get the same guys showing up and performing in the same way every outing.
All right, so that's from a Louisville standpoint. Now, from an SU standpoint, it's no secret that the Syracuse defense has really struggled this year. Is there anyone from the Cardinals' point of view that you really could, potentially see shooting well against the zone, putting up points in bunches?
Yeah, I think this is a game that Louisville desperately needs. This zone is like, if we could get this, not that I don't think Syracuse is a good team, but the way that Louisville plays, they just want to shoot threes all day long, and they get hot from time to time and they miss a ton of shots. So Saturday will be about what their rhythm looks like. But yeah, Noah Locke is coming off of a game against North Carolina where he shot the ball well. Matt Cross finally got going, shot the ball well. Sidney Curry has been dominant inside as an offensive rebounder and as a scorer around the rim. So that obviously opens up the opportunity to kind of get shots outside. Now, the question is, can they play within themselves? Can L. Ellis, who's really kind of taken the star role down the stretch, can he handle that kind of unique defense? He's a JUCO guy. He's in his first year, but he's obviously more experienced in college basketball. But can he handle that kind of constant zone that really requires discipline, ball movement, all of those things? Or will Louisville go into that kind of hero mode and guys try to take over games, which is what we've seen? And when they can't get a shot to fall, it's lights out. They're not winning any games when that's the case. So if they can get a consistent rhythm with Locke, Cross, I think that they've got a chance to win. But if not, it may end up being a 15, 20-point game in Syracuse's favor.
Johnny mentioned how Syracuse's defense has struggled, but their offense has been the complete opposite. They're in the top 20 on KenPom. They've got a lot of guys on the perimeter who can score. And you mentioned Jesse Edwards before, the big leap he's taken this season. So how do you see the Louisville defense matching up with, Buddy, who's averaging over 19 points a game, and Edwards, who had 19 points himself last night against NC State and has been a menace in the paint at times this season?
Louisville's defense has been a strength for them in a lot of ways, but when they're not hitting their shots, it's also been a big weakness of theirs. One issue particularly is lazy closeouts, the inability to kind of stay with guys, biting for pump fakes. I really worry with the Boeheim brothers and with Joe Girard and some of the other guys who can shoot the ball. If Louisville is not consistent with their defense and the ability to kind of stay in front of guys and close out strong, I think that this could be a really big game for Syracuse. You could see them get hot and continue that winning streak, but they come out and they're together, they're connected. You see Jared West out there guarding the ball. You see, Sidney Curry playing strong defense inside. I mean, he is going to be kind of licking his lips at the idea of getting to bang up against Jesse Edwards, who's much more of a skinnier guy. Sidney Curry's pushing 3 bills, even over 3 bills. I mean, he's a big fella and moves really, really well, very nimble. So he's looking for a chance to go up against those kind of skinnier players. So I think that there's an opportunity there for Louisville's defense. If they can really kind of play together, close out, I think they can do well. But again, it's all about consistency, 40 minutes of basketball. And there's not been anything this season that would indicate to you and give you a strong faith that you can trust that they're going to get that on a night in and night out basis.
All right, Jacob, last one we got for you here is sort of, a couple packed within one, if you will. We'll do a little Mad Libs. Louisville will win this game because they did blank, and Syracuse will win this game because they did blank. What does each team need to sort of happen? And then if we could trouble you for a prediction, you don't have to give a score if you don't want, but how do you see things shaping out this weekend?
Yeah, so I think Louisville wins if they get hot from 3. I think that if Louisville comes out and they feel confident in that zone, that they can get their shots and they can get what kind of makes them tick, which are those open threes in the corners, the ability to drive and kick. If they can get going, hit early, if Matt Cross, like I said, Noah Locke, Jared West, Jalen Withers, some of these guys who just haven't been hot consistently, if they can make shots, I think Louisville wins this game. Syracuse wins this game if they can come out and kind of punch Louisville in the mouth in the first 6 minutes of the game. Louisville, although they did come back, Duke got up by 12 in the first 6 minutes before the first media timeout. We've seen time and time again that teams just come out and out physical Louisville. Louisville often doesn't look like they're interested in being at any arena that they play in. I will say the last 2 games have been at home, and the fans have really kind of come back and support following Chris Mack's exit. And so I think maybe there is a little bit of juice, but if Syracuse comes out and Boeheim hits 2 threes in the opening section, in the opening segment, Girard gets going, they get an alley-oop to Jesse Edwards inside. I really think they've got an opportunity to just kind of shut Louisville down early and make it kind of their game to control. And Jim Boeheim is such a good coach. That defense is such a challenge if you're not hitting shots. that's where I see Louisville kind of falling into a trap of if they're not hitting, they're going to keep shooting. Like if you guys watch the game on Saturday and Louisville continues to shoot, you're going to laugh at yourself and be like, yeah, that's what he said. They'll keep shooting regardless of whether they're 5 for 9 or whether they're 1 for 27. They're going to shoot threes regardless. So if Syracuse comes out, punches them, Louisville's not hitting shots, I think Syracuse wins easy. As far as a prediction, again, I'm going to be realistic here. I have not seen enough from Louisville consistently to think that they can beat anybody right now. I've seen them lose to DePaul this season. I've seen them lose to Pittsburgh. I saw them get their butts kicked by NC State at home in one of the most disheartening efforts in a long time. I think Syracuse wins this game in a close manner. I think Louisville makes enough shots to keep it close, but at the end, Louisville will find a way to do something in the closing 5 minutes of the game to cost them an opportunity at winning, and Syracuse walks away. I'll say, I don't know what the spread is, but I'll say they win by less than 6.
Well, Orange fans certainly know a thing or two about things going haywire in the last couple minutes. We've had our fair share of those this year as well. Jacob, can't thank you enough for coming on. Really appreciate all the insight and talking some hoops with you here today.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it. And I know your audience won't like this, but go Cards.
There we go. Thanks, Jacob. Have a good one.